Knowledge is power. Make an impact by learning more. Call us right now for more help at 866-945-8070. How to enter payroll in QuickBooks Online. I want to start off by making it clear. We're talking about third-party services where you're using something like Paychex or ADP or some other payroll service. And I know some payroll services offer a way to import their payroll into QuickBooks Online. I'd caution you to be very wary. A lot of those services the import doesn't come out very well. The import doesn't quite line up with how the banking works. So I strongly encourage you to take a careful look at how the stuff imports before you commit to doing it that way. In most cases, I think you'll find it's easier when you're using a third party to book the payroll yourself, especially if your intention is to just book it at the summary level, meaning you're just going to book the totals. You're not going to book the individual paychecks. So in this video, we're going to go over how to book the payroll really at the summary level. And then at the end, I'm going to go over what to do if you want to do what I call the detail method, which is where you actually enter all the individual paychecks. So, with that said, I highly recommend QuickBooks Online Full Service Payroll. It's what we use for all of our clients when we're doing the consulting for them at Nerd Enterprises Incorporated, and they want to do payroll. We pretty much insist on QuickBooks Online Full Service Payroll because then you just run the payroll and everything's booked for you and you don't have to worry about a thing. There is no import. There's no sync. Everything just kind of works perfectly. And I can get you half price on QuickBooks Online as well as QuickBooks Online Full Service Payroll. So reach out to me if you're interested, and I will be more than happy to explain to you how that works. Just use the contact form right here on our website, or give us a call at the number I give out every 5 minutes, 866-945-8070. Now, let's get on with the business at hand. We want to talk about how to enter payroll. So I think to do this, what I want to do, and I did videos, some of my more popular videos on YouTube to date are the videos that I did on how to enter payroll using QuickBooks Desktop. I thought it would be nice to do based on QuickBooks Online, which of course is why we're here. Works the same, conceptually exactly the same, just different software, so it looks differently. Right? And I'm sure a lot of people have watched my YouTube videos on how to enter payroll in QuickBooks Desktop and just kind of adapted it for QuickBooks Online. Very, very easy to do. Nonetheless, here it is with the right context for those who are using QuickBooks Online. But I want to explain a little bit better perhaps than I did last time conceptually how this works, because where a lot of bookkeepers make mistakes, or especially business owners who aren't bookkeepers and they're trying to do their own bookkeeping, where a lot of you make mistakes is payroll comes out in essentially 3 payments with these services. You have the net pay, and you have the taxes, and then of course the fee. We're not really going to talk about the fee. That's pretty easy. It comes out as a payment. You record a check and you book it to payroll fees and expense account. Right? So that part's done. Very easy. The tricky part is the net pay that comes out isn't really the whole picture, right? So on my screen here, I've laid it out so that you can take any payroll run that you've done, and all you need to do is pull out the information that you see here. And yes, this template's available if you're watching on YouTube. Just look for the description. Look in the description for the link to the blog post, because that's where you'll be able to get the links to download a template like this. And this template is going to just make it very easy for you to enter your payroll. So here's an example of a payroll from Paychex. And what you're looking for is that basic information. We're looking down here. This would be the last page of the payroll journal report, and we're looking for the total payroll, the company total, $27,878.83 in this case, right? So we're going to go over and we're going to key that as the gross payroll, $27,878. Was it 83? It was 83. That's the gross pay. That's the expense. That has to get on the books. When you're booking the net pay as payroll expense, which is what that's the mistake a lot of people make, is they see the net pay and they just say, oh, that's payroll expense. You're missing a good chunk of the payroll, as you're going to see in a second, because then the withholdings, and where you're looking for the withholdings, you're looking for what's taken out of the employee's paycheck, which is going to be, again, under the company totals in this section right here, where you see the Social Security, and these are the employee liabilities. The report doesn't do a great job of letting you know that it's the employee. The clue is that below that is where it has the employer, right? So if this is employer, this has to be employee, right? It would be kind of nice if it said employee withholding or liabilities. Same thing. So the total here is $5,440.94. So if I record my net pay as the payroll expense, I understate my payroll by this exact amount in this case, $5,440.94. Let's key that as a negative number because that's being deducted from the gross pay to arrive at the net pay. But we're not done. In this case, there's other deductions, and I purposely wanted to choose one that was a little more complex like this so that people, because a lot of people were asking in the older videos, how to deal with some of these other things. So now you'll get to see that right here in my video instead of me answering in the comments. So over here, under deductions, we have our other deductions, right? And I'm just going to use the total for now. So, because what we want to do is just make sure we can account for the difference between gross and net. And these are the things. We have the gross pay minus the withholdings minus the deductions equals the net. So the deductions is $2,927.16 minus $29.27 and 16 cents. And now we get to the net pay of $19,510.73. Flipping back over to the payroll report, you'll see that is the net pay. This is the amount that is going to come out of my client's account. When this payroll is posted, this is the amount I'm actually going to see coming out of their bank account, right? And so the mistake that gets made is people just take this net amount, and it saves a lot of time because you're not taking the time to book it correctly. So you just take that net pay and say, oh, that's payroll expense, I'm done. But we would be off by a grand total of the withholdings and the other deductions. So our payroll would be understated by by over $8,000, right? We would be off. That's how much our expense would be off by if we simply took this number and recorded that as our payroll expense. Okay, so that's the one payment is the net pay. The other payment is the taxes. And if you look down below here, I've already taken care of part of it because part of it is simply taking what we had previously taken out of their paychecks. And now here we're sending it into the government. Right? So we have the negative amount from what we withheld from the employee's pay, and now it's positive. It's one portion of the tax payment. So where's the other part of the tax payment? Well, we looked at it a few seconds ago. If I go back to my payroll report and look all the way down at the bottom here, remember, here's the employer liabilities. They have it broken down in these different amounts. The total employer liability is $3,575. So let's go enter that. $3,575. So our total tax payment is $8446.69. Let's take a look back over here. Notice at the very bottom, total tax liability $8446.69. The other mistake people make is they would take this $8446.69 and they would record that as just the employer tax expense, right? So you would think that would almost make up for the understatement of payroll expense here, which is almost $8,400. But it doesn't, because keep in mind that $5,400 of that is the employee withholding. So we would be overstating payroll taxes by $5,440.94 here. So it's tempting to think that the overstatement would match the understatement, but look here, we still have a difference of $3,000. In other words, you can't just say it's going to be a wash because the taxes were over and the payroll was under, because it's not going to match up dollar for dollar. And now spread that out over all your payrolls for an entire year, and you have a mess on your hands, right? So now that we have this, and what I'm trying to provide you with is a really simple tool you can use. You can take this form and simply go to the payroll report, key all the numbers in, and now you have it laid out perfectly and making it really easy for you to enter your payroll in QuickBooks Online. And here's what that's going to look like. We're going to record a check or an expense. And some bookkeepers like to book payroll with journal entries. That's always bugged me. I've never liked to do that because it's a check. It's coming out of the bank account. So why not just use a check? Use the form that's meant to be used for the purpose, right? So let's start with the first account. Is going to be the payroll expenses. Right, and this is going to be your salaries and wages. I didn't even set up the account in these books yet. So let's do that. Let's go payroll salaries. And it sounds weird to call it payroll salaries, but I do that on purpose so that everything is called payroll something, so that when I'm pulling it up from the drop down, it's really easy to find what I'm looking for, right? So we'll set this up real quick. This is, of course, payroll expenses, and you might even do payroll dash salaries, right? I'm kind of a stickler for the form that it takes. All right, so the payroll expense is the whole $27,878.83. Okay, so I'm just going to copy and paste that in. Next, we have the withholdings, which is going to go to payroll liabilities. So let's type payroll. That one I know I do have. Payroll liabilities. Now, you might be wondering, what about the breakdown? Because some of it is state withholding, some of it is federal withholdings. I don't care, because the whole amount is going to get taken out of their pay, and the payroll company is going to pull out that whole amount, and they're going to send it into the appropriate state or federal entities. So I really don't care. The only thing I care about for bookkeeping purposes is that I'm going to withhold the money from their payroll, and then I'm going to pay it in with the tax payment, which we'll record after this. And the bottom line is this payroll liabilities account has to zero out when I'm done recording payroll. If it doesn't, then something's off. I've made a mistake. And booking the details of how payroll liabilities are broken down is only going to give me that many more chances to make a mistake. So that's one of the other reasons I don't like to do it, and I don't like to train others to do it. So we're going to subtract 5440.94 as the amounts that were withheld from all of the employees' paychecks, right? And then we have other deductions. Now, the other deductions was 2927.16. I, in the form, give you one line to enter the whole amount in, just so you can make sure you've got the reconciliation done. But notice here, we actually have to break this down. There's 3 different things that make up these other deductions, one of which is an employee advance. So as soon as I see an employee advance on somebody's books, the first thing I want to do is make sure that we've recorded the initial advance that was made, because this is the repayment of the advance, right? This is an advance that's being deducted from their paycheck, so we're recapturing those funds. So let's run a balance sheet real quick. And we see I have, sure enough, an account with employee advances. Of course, I planned it this way, right? You may see a bigger number because there may be other advances out there. So what you're going to want to do is click in here, confirm whose advance it is that was being taken out of their pay, and make sure that their original advance is included in here, right? So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to say employee advances, and I know it's minus 250. Okay, then after that, we have the dependent care employee. It's basically money coming out for some kind of dependent care plan. That's going to go against an expense because the company is going to pay for the plan, and this is like a partial reimbursement. That's usually what these things wind up looking like. So what I did, of course, was I created an account on the books for it that follows suit exactly with how it's titled on the payroll report, so that it makes it easy for me to find it and use it. Notice it's set up as an expense account. Like I said, it is a partial reimbursement, negative 314.68. And any other kind of deduction from payroll that's being taken out of somebody's pay, if it's a garnishment, whatever it is, going to work the exact same way. It's just going to be a different account that you use to capture it. A garnishment is going to go into another liability account. Just call it garnishments payable, right? Because that's just money that you're taking out of their pay that has to go into some other government agency, right? So that is the dependent care. Finally, we have, in this case, IRA contributions. So here I can break it up because I have the individual employees, but I don't necessarily care to do that, except actually what I will do is I will separate officers' IRA contributions from everybody else's, right? Because we like, and I do the same thing, by the way, with the actual salaries. Is usually I'll take the officer salaries, and I'll just, instead of recording it all in one line like this, I will actually have 2 lines for the payroll salaries, one for the officers, one for everyone else. And sometimes I'll even have a different expense account for the officer salaries, especially if it's an S Corp. So that's another consideration. So for now, we have the IRA contributions, $2362.48. Simple IRA. It's also a liability account because it's being taken out, and then it's going to be sent in to the pension administrator. And then the company's going to pay, and that's going to be the company share of the expense, right? So here, what was the amount again? $2362.48 minus $2362.48. And of course, when I'm done, my payment, my check, which is what I'm recording here in the bigger picture, needs to net out to the $19,510.73. Always check to make sure it agrees. Down here we are, net pay $19,510.73. Excellent. I can hit save and close. And a couple things are going to happen there. Now my employee advances is 0 because I got that money back through this payroll that we just recorded. But we have the payroll liabilities. Notice the 54, 40, 94, and then we have the IRA. And this may accumulate for a while until it actually gets paid. So don't worry about that. This one's not necessarily going to zero out with each payroll, but make sure that ultimately it does, right? Check on it every month and every quarter and make sure that at some point there's a payment being made to send these funds into the pension administrator. So next we're going to record the tax payment, and at that point the payroll liabilities has to zero out. Absolutely has to zero out. Okay, so that's going to be here. We have a regular expense we're going to record in the form of the tax payment. That's going to be split up into the withholding portion and the employer's share of the expenses, which of course is the company expense. So let's go record another payment. Okay, and the pay, usually you're going to put the payroll company, whoever that might actually be, right? I sort of skipped that here. So payroll taxes. Payroll taxes. Also hadn't added that in. We need that for the employer expense, right? Expenses, payroll expenses, payroll taxes. Sometimes just as a reminder, you can put ER for employer, not emergency room. Right, what was the employer's share? $3,575. That's why I like doing this, because once you've got it laid out and you know it all reconciles perfectly, then you can just copy and paste the stuff back into QuickBooks. So it's that much less likely you're going to make a mistake. And then we have the withholdings, right? Which is payroll liabilities is where that goes. And we have our little template here. I can just copy it right out of there. And the whole payroll tax payment is $84.4669. That should match what's coming out of our bank account, and that's what our number down here confirms is the amount of the total tax liability. The total tax liability is the $84.4669, which includes our share of the expenses as the employer and the amounts we took out of their paychecks. And save and close. And then we're just going to check the balance sheet again. And now we make sure the payroll liability should be zeroed out. And sure enough, it is, right? So that's how you know for sure that you got it right. Pretty simple stuff. So then for the last part, I have, actually, let's run the P&L, right? Because we want to make sure that that part came out right as well. Remember, the gross pay is supposed to be $27,878.83, and here's the employer taxes, the $3,575. So now we have payroll recorded perfectly and in perfect form. So one more thing we want to talk about that I promised you. We want to talk about the detailed method. So in the detailed method, I'm going to go back to my template. The only difference is these amounts, the gross pay, the withholdings, the other deductions, are going to be recorded through separate individual paychecks. So we're going to want to record each and every paycheck. Each and every paycheck, here you can see examples of two of them. Notice it's the same exact layout. So you're going to record each paycheck for its gross pay. You're going to subtract, here they subtotal the withholdings for you just for that employee. Here's the simple IRA deduction for this employee, and then you'll be able to confirm that that check nets out to the net pay for that employee, right? And notice here it indicates that this is direct deposit, as is this. You're going to do that once for every single employee. You will wind up with the same totals. Here's the difference. Instead of recording those as expenses out of the bank account, you're going to create a bank account. Let's go to the balance sheet again. It's just easier to look at it that way instead of going into the chart of accounts. You're going to create a fictitious bank account called Payroll Clearing. Okay, and then you're going to record each of those individual checks out of that account. It will wind up with a negative amount, which will total to that net pay number, that $19,810, I think it was, right? $19,510.73. That's what your payroll clearing account will come to in the net. And then when this amount comes out of the bank account, instead of recording this as we just did as the whole summary payroll, because we've already taken care of all of that by recording the individual paychecks, this is simply a check that goes against that payroll clearing account. So there'll just be one line item, and it'll be the payroll clearing. All this detail will have already been taken care of through the individual paychecks. Now, why would you want to do this? Because some people like detail. Some people want to have all that information, because now I can run reports and I can see by employee who got paid what. When it comes time to give somebody a raise, I can easily run a report that shows me their payroll history, so I can help in making that decision about how much of a raise they should get, and so on and so forth. So again, sometimes it's details, and the balance with this stuff is always, there's a trade-off. The more details I want, the more it's going to cost me, essentially, because obviously it takes more time to do, which means I'm paying for a bookkeeper to do it, and either that bookkeeper is going to cost me more because I have to pay them for more time if they're still billing by the hour. If they're not billing by the hour, I'm just using up their precious resource in the form of time for that instead of something else. That's what it really boils down to. Bottom line, more details, going to cost more, but I'm not saying it's wrong to do. In fact, I actually am one of those people that loves to have those details. I'm a data junkie. I love to be able to run reports and analyze data. So I'm a fan of doing the detailed method, but I understand that for some people, it's just not worth taking the time to do that, especially if you have like 100 paychecks a pay period and you're running payroll twice a month. That could be a lot of work. That goes back to an argument for doing what I suggested in the beginning, which is just use an integrated payroll service so you don't have to worry about any of this, and all the details are there. That, my friends, is your tutorial on how to enter payroll with QuickBooks Online. Again, if you're watching this on YouTube, check the description for a link over to the blog post where you can get the template that I used here. And when you get that template, just go File, make a copy if you want to stick with Google Sheets, or download as if you want to get it in Excel format. So you can use it however you prefer to use it. So that, my friends, is everything I think you need to know for now. As always, if you have any questions, concerns, comments, feedback, if I went too fast, went too slow, let me know. But hopefully, and by the way, if you're watching this video and trying to follow along and record your payroll, I highly recommend that you do it in pieces, right? Watch a piece of my video, pause the video, go enter, go do the first part, right? And then continue the video and go back and do the second part. You're not going to learn anything by just watching me do it. You're going to learn this stuff by actually doing it yourself. Use my video, use me as your resource. And as always, you know where to reach me if you need more help. I don't let you go 5 minutes. Well, here I let you go about 20 minutes without hearing it. Now you're going to hear it again. Give us a call, 866-945-8070. And remember, if you're interested in QuickBooks Online full service payroll, I can get you half price. I can also get you half price on QuickBooks Online itself. So give me a call. As always, I hope you learned something here and had some fun along the way. I hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day. And I look forward to seeing you on the web.